The bombings of the two Japanese cities, Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945, were the pivotal events in the course of the Second World War and the years ahead. It brought into light the horrors and destructive powers of human scientific achievements, and also paved way for the silent war that is still witnessed today, the Cold War. On the 6th of August 1945, the U.S. Air Force B-29 bomber dropped a uranium bomb, which was nicknamed as the Little Boy, on the city of Hiroshima. It exploded with a force of about 15 kilotons of TNT. The city was chosen as it served as the headquarters for Japan's Second Army, making it a crucial military hub, port and communication center important for defense and deployment in southern Japan. Also, during the course of war, the city remained mostly unscathed by previous bombing raids, thus it allowed bombs' effect to be measured and observed with minimal pre-existing damage. 3 days later, on the 9th of August 1945, a plutonium bomb, nicknamed as Fat Man, was dropped on the city of Nagasaki that exploded with a force of 21 kilotons. The city was primarily not the choice to be bombed. Rather, the target committee appointed by Truman chose the city of Kokura, a city on the island of Kyushu, as its second target, as the city had one of the biggest ordnance factories. It was due to the bad weather that the USA chose the city of Nagasaki. The city had major military facilities, including 2 Mitsubishi military factories. The US wanted unconditional surrender by Japan, but the Japanese wanted negotiated peace with the Soviet Union as the mediator. Furthermore, the Japanese feared that unconditional surrender would mean that they have to let go of their imperial system, and it would mark as a disgrace to the national honor. It was for this reason that infrastructure and resource-stricken Japan continued to fight against the Allied forces in the later phase of the Second World War, despite its cities being continuously bombed and thousands being killed mercilessly before the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombing events. One such event was the bombing of Tokyo, March 1945. In this, the U.S. Air Force dropped firebombs in the capital city that wiped off around 80,000 to 100,000 people and ravaged the city. The U.S. codenamed it as Operation Meeting House. However, the Japanese remained divided with the U.S. on the unconditional surrender due to concerns about preserving the imperial system and national honor. However, the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombings led Japan to an immediate surrender to the Allied forces on the 15th of August 1945, 6 days after the Nagasaki bombings. These bombings unleashed new destructive powers and terror, as these atomic bombs had an unprecedented immediate explosion impact, which instantly wiped off several thousands and reduced the city's infrastructure to mere skeleton, with nothing left but the traces of human presence. The outlines of the bodies got imprinted on the rocks. The Japanese leadership knew that it couldn't resist the attack on this level and of this intensity, more than the physical damage. These two continuous U.S. bombings brought out psychological defeat in the minds of the Japanese. Furthermore, the Soviet Union too declared war against Japan on the 8th of August 1945, 2 days after Hiroshima bombing, thereby crushing Japan's hope of negotiation and its military, as now it had to fight against the US and the Soviets. As an outcome, Emperor Hirohito agreed to the unconditional surrender of Japan. In the aftermaths of the atomic bombings, the nuclear radiation that emerged brought with it the horrors of bodily impairment among the survivors, who are known as the hibakushas. The babies that were born to the mothers who survived the bombings suffered mental retardation, leukemia, thyroid cancer, and several others type of cancer. It impacted the lives in the area for years. The impactful bombings not only guaranteed victory to the Allied forces against Japan, and ultimately in the Second World War, but it also portrayed the rise of American military prowess. The concepts of atomic bombs were not new at the time, but no country could use it to an unprecedented scale. The atomic bombs Little Boy and Fat Man were the outcome of the top-secret World War II research and development program, the Manhattan Project, where several thousand scientists worked for the development of the nuclear bombs, which it started in 1941, in response to the anticipation of the Germans joining the nuclear race. Besides, the bombings, especially the Nagasaki bombing, was a pivotal event, as it established a new chapter in the relations of the world, the impact of which is still witnessed today, the Cold War. It is so because, on the 8th of August 1945, though the Soviet Union, under the leadership of Joseph Stalin, declared war on Japan following its decision taken during the Tehran and Yalta conferences in 1943 and 1945, U.S. President Harry Truman ordered the Nagasaki bombing on the very next day. it added to the distrust that had already begun between Stalin and Truman, since the Vice President Truman was elected as the president following the death of President Roosevelt in 1945. Truman had no experience in world politics, and he joined the post at a time when Stalin was at peak of his leadership. As the Soviets, French, and the UK had been largely successful in giving Germany a crushing response in the German territories, Truman was thus seen as a weak leader, and so was the USA. Until the unexpected USA dropped another atomic bomb on Nagasaki, thereby elevating American prowess and in a little form, demeaning the USSR's decision of its war against Japan. Furthermore, the act of American military prowess developed a sense of rivalry between the two leaders that ultimately led to the culmination of the ideological war between the two nations, that is, the Cold War. The bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki were an event in the course of the Second World War. It resulted in the surrender of the Imperial Japanese forces and the end of the war, but with it, it brought the horrors of destruction of lives, infrastructure, lifelong diseases, and the nuclear arms race. All this changed the New World Order, from alliance system to the superpower race, combined with the Cold War. That's all for the topic. Hope the video was explanatory to the historical events. Thank you.